Welcome to episode 13 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. If you're a new listener, we would really appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, it would be a big time help if you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. All right, so we are recording the podcast a little bit earlier than usual this week. It is Saturday, April 3rd, 2021. The Leafs have won 5 of their last 6 games. They are currently 2-0-1 this week, and we are going to get into the week that was and give you our thoughts and opinions on everything that went down with this team. But before we do that, it is time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Things are good, Bruno. Can you believe it? Episode number 13. Shout out to the captain, Leafs legend, Mats Sundin.
Let's go. Captain Mats, baby. I love
Captain Mats. Another one, Mats, if you're listening from Sweden, we'd love to have you on the show.
Oh, that would be incredible.
But yeah, the sun is out here in Ottawa. It's that's a reason to smile. Reason to have a frown is that we've been locked down again. So depending on what time of the day you ask me if I'm in a good mood or bad mood, you might get a different answer. But let's go. Lots of stuff to talk about. I'm excited for today's show, man.
Big time. And hey, while we're in lockdown and you have nothing to do, then you should probably listen and watch to the GFP podcast, because we will provide tons of entertainment for you, I promise. And this episode is going to be very juicy. So stay tuned, everybody. But let's get into the week that was for the Leafs. So they still play a game on Sunday against the Calgary Flames, but so far this week, they are 2-0-1. So let's just go over what has happened so far. So the Leafs start the week Monday night at home against the Edmonton Oilers. They outplayed Edmonton. They outshot them. They outchanced them. They dominated essentially the entire game. But of course, the Oilers steal a 3-2 win in overtime. Michael Hutchinson got the start in net. Jack Campbell was sitting out, and reports were saying that he was managing an injury potentially. The Leafs are trying to manage his workload. Now, listen, Jack Campbell has been awesome this year, as we all know, but that might be something to look out for as we move forward here. Maybe he is dealing with something, and we don't really have a ton of information on it, but it is something to keep an eye on. But yeah, so the Leafs drop a 3-2 game in overtime. Darnell Nurse scores the game winner for the Edmonton Oilers. Darnell Nurse has been incredible this year
on fire
for Edmonton. But the Leafs bounce back on Wednesday night on the road against the Winnipeg Jets. Lepore, I didn't think they played that great in that Wednesday night game, but they come away with a 3-1 victory. Jack Campbell makes 26 saves, and it was just a solid win for the Leafs. A nice bounce back dub after that overtime loss. And then Friday night on the road against the Jets once again, the Leafs win 2-1 in a shootout. Jack Campbell was just ridiculous in this game, made 31 saves for the victory, improving to 8-0 this season with a 135 goals against average and a 951 save percentage. Shout out to Jason Spezza, who scored the shootout winner. He also assisted on the Travis Dermott goal, moving into the top 100 scorers in NHL history. And you guys all know how much we love Jason Spezza. So
Spezza.
Oh, he's just the best. Yeah, the Leafs 2-0-1 this week so far, Lepore, and I got to hear your thoughts on how this team has played this week.
We'll start with the Oilers game, the first game. To me, that game was such a fucking piss off in the way that it was a perfect microcosm of what we've been talking about quite often on this show. You had a game where the Leafs completely dominated. The Geeks had that game at a 70% win for the Leafs. They were all over the Oilers to start the game. The shots were 6-2 when that puck dribbles by Brody and Archibald gets that breakaway and scores. And it was this segment of the game that frustrated me the most. You had Marner tie the game at 1. Then you had Matthews score again for the Leafs. So it's 2-1 Leafs now. The Leafs are out shooting the Edmonton Oilers 14-6 after one period. And it's that phase of the game that I've been focusing on very closely for the Toronto Maple Leafs, where I really want them to step ahead, get ahead of your opponent more than a single goal. Because again, we keep seeing it from this team where they get a lead, they're dominating an opponent, but they let that team hang around. And of course, what happens earlier in the third, a bullshit shot from the point. I think it went off Turris's ass and goes in the net. Yeah. You have a 2-2 game. Like you said, Toronto heavily outchances Edmonton, heavily outshoots Edmonton, heavily puck possesses Edmonton, and you have a game going into overtime where you now have a coin flip.
It's so frustrating.
It's so fucking frustrating. And then in overtime, again, everyone who watched it, Marner gets the puck off the jaw, quick pass to Matthews. Everyone jumps up expecting a goal, but great save. Puck goes back the other way, and it was written in advance that, Nurse would score that goal after Matthews missed his chance. And just frustrating. And we're spoiled right now in Leafs Nation. Anything we point to as something that we're upset about or disappointed in, you could classify as nitpicking. But screw it, I'm going to nitpick on this team because we've had far too many of those games. And to be honest, it's not even necessarily games they lose. It's even games they end up winning, where it's like they win 2-1 or they win 3-2. No. Get a lead that's more than a single goal.
Yeah, win 4-1, win
4-1. And it sounds so like obvious. Yeah, score more goals. But when you're out chancing, out shooting, out possessing a team, I don't think it's that much to ask. Like, we shouldn't be in these situations where we're playing an opponent, dominating an opponent, and hoping still that we get a save from our goalie. And I'm sure it ties into the power play not doing well. If we look deeper, certain players that are struggling, other percentages. But to me, it's very, very concerning from the playoff perspective, because you're going to play those teams that hang around and are good at hanging around. And we've talked about this off air, and we'll get to it later in the show. Certain opponents that you face are the types of teams that are just perfect to pounce on a team that doesn't punish them. And for me, it's frustrating as all hell. And now I'll let you go on your rant about it.
Yeah, Lepore, it is so frustrating. It is the most frustrating thing about this team this year, because we've talked about this so many times on previous shows. They have proven game in and game out against every team in this Canadian division that they have the ability to thoroughly outplay every single team in the North Division. I've seen it. Me and you have watched every single game this year, but time and time again, they are outplaying these teams, and like you said, they're letting them hang around. They're not going up by 2 goals or 3 goals when they have the opportunity to just step down on these teams and punish them and not let them get back into these games. And there have been so many games this year that the Leafs should just be cruising to a victory. And listen, it's kind of like you said, Lepore, like, are we a little bit spoiled? Like, sure, at the end of the day, this team is in first place in the Canadian division. They are obviously going to cruise into the playoffs. There's no worry about missing the playoffs, but it's becoming increasingly frustrating to watch this team outchance, outpossess, outplay opponents, and lose games or barely win games by a goal.
How many games this year? Honestly, I can't. Not too many games jump out to me this year where they quote unquote comfortably won.
No, there really isn't.
Yeah, even like a 4-1
on one hand, maybe.
Yeah, I remember 1 or 2 against Ottawa, and then I'm like scrapping. Like there was those wins against the Oilers. A couple of them were pretty.
Maybe that 3-game stretch against the Oilers, how they outscored them 13-1. That was by far the most dominant stretch of the season. But other than that, and maybe a game against the Senators, like, this team has not really proven that, they can get out to a lead and then score. It's just scoring that, that next goal where you're just sort of putting the game out of reach, and, you're demoralizing the other team, because when they're sticking around and they're only down by a goal or down by, even 2 goals, they feel like they're still in it. And with the amount of quality scoring chances the Leafs are getting on a nightly basis and the amount of posts they're hitting, it's unbelievable, man. And you said it, come playoff time, That's the one thing I'm still scared of, is that if you're going to let, good quality teams hang around, teams that can attack you off the rush, and Edmonton is that perfect team where it's like, yes, the Leafs are going to outplay them probably 6 out of 7 games, maybe 7 out of 7 games. But all it takes is McDavid and Draisaitl to go the other way. You give them one opportunity and they can score. And it's not just Edmonton. There's other teams that can do that, looking outside of the Canadian division, obviously, right? You can look at a team like Tampa or Colorado or Carolina or whatever, go down the list, right? But yeah, man, it's something that this team needs to address. And sure, is it probably the power play issues that are playing a big role in this? Yeah, because the Leafs are 0 for 26 on the power play in their last 10 games. So that might be a big reason why. But yeah, at the end of the day, this team has to start scoring goals. And I don't give a shit anymore about moneypuck.com and how many chances they're getting. And, the Leafs should be winning these games 70% of the time. This has to translate onto the score sheet at some point. So yeah, that's where my frustration lies right now, Lepore.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. Because it's almost like, why won't that next puck go in? And just the idea of being able, and it's weird because the Leafs have shown, and this sounds so odd to say, but this is a solid defensive team. So even up by 1, it's like we're not shitting our pants the way we used to watching this team. Well, even up by 2 or 3 before watching this team, we'd be shitting our pants. So even up by 1, you have a semi-comfort level, but guys, can you just let us fully relax up by 2 maybe once in a while, that we can just chill, drink our beer and watch the Leaf game? No, we got to be on pins and needles all the time. But I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand with the title of this podcast being a glutton for punishment, but it's frustrating as all hell. And there's not a lot of time left to improve on these kind of categories of your game. I mean, how many games are left really? So they gotta show me something more in a hurry, and I think we'd all like to see it. But with regard to their opponent, the Edmonton Oilers, Bruno, those who listen to our show know you're a pretty big fan of that team. You like to, in the way that you like to talk about that team, and you seem pretty fired up before the show. Anything you want to elaborate on that game or the Oilers specifically as a franchise?
I got to get this off my chest, Lepore, and I don't give a shit what any Oilers fan or any other hockey fan tells me. This team sucks.
Oh,
okay.
Hard word.
This team is a disaster.
And
you could look at the standings and tell me they're only 4 points behind the Leafs for first in the Canadian division. You can talk to me all day long about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Listen, I'm not an idiot. I watch these guys all the time. They're both incredible hockey players. But when those two guys are not on the ice for the Edmonton Oilers, this team is a completely different hockey team. And I can't be the only person that has identified this season. I mean, it is glaringly obvious to me, Michael Lepore, when Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are not on the ice, this team cannot generate any offense. They can't sustain any sort of pressure in the offensive zone. When I've watched the Leafs specifically play this team this season, okay, the Leafs have dominated pretty much every single game. When you look at the metrics, and again, we talk about this all the time, the shot share, the scoring chances, the high danger chances, the Leafs, I mean, are just really dominating every single game against Edmonton. And right now, if you can give me the Edmonton Oilers in a first round series, serve that shit up on a silver platter to me right now.
Bruno.
Okay, because
not afraid at all.
I am just not worried one bit about this team.
Not afraid at all.
It's crazy that when those two guys aren't on the ice, this team has zero ability to generate scoring chances. And don't talk to me about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Listen, he's a good player, and he's probably the only legitimate top 6 forward on this team outside of McDavid and Draisaitl. But you go down this roster, this team essentially has 3 legitimate top 6 forwards. And talk to me all you want about Tyson Barrie. I'm a big Tyson Barrie fan. He runs the power play well. He's got a ton of points this year. He still has a lot of defensive holes in his game. And listen, shout out to Darnell Nurse. I think he's having a phenomenal season, the best season he's had in his NHL career. But at the end of the day, Lepore, this team has so many holes. And sure, Can they beat the Leafs once or twice in a 7-game series? Of course they can. Of course they can. They got McDavid and Draisaitl. And like we talked about, they can get, some rush chances. After the Leafs dominate 90% of the play, can they get a rush chance the other way and score on a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1? Of course they can, Lepore. They can win a couple of games against this team in a 7-game series. But who the fuck is this Oilers team going to beat in a playoff series? Which good team can this Oilers team beat in a playoff series? I just don't see it. I don't know if you're on the same page as me, but I'm just sick and tired of hearing about this Oilers team and how they're a threat. This team is zero threat, Michael Lepore. Zero threat. I had to get this off my chest.
Zero threat to win a playoff series.
To win a playoff series against a legitimate team, against a team that actually has the ability to win a Stanley Cup.
Okay,
Let me
so
specify that.
I put a briefcase on the table with $1 million in it, and I say the Montreal Canadiens are playing the Edmonton Oilers in a playoff series. You don't even think about it, Montreal?
Well, see, Montreal, I don't view them as a Stanley Cup. That's a series that I could see going either way. But okay. I mean, you put Edmonton up against, we could go through the other divisions. So let's say the Leafs, Colorado, Vegas.
Yeah, but those are really good teams.
Tampa,
I wouldn't put many teams against those good teams.
But here's the thing is that I think Oilers fans specifically, they look at McDavid and Draisaitl and they go, oh my God, we have 2 of the top 5 players in the world. And Tyson Barrie's having a career season and Darnell Nurse is having a career season. And this is, you guys have 5 players that are good. That's it. You got 5 or 6 legitimate players. And I honestly don't think that I'm exaggerating this, Lepore. Jesse Puljujarvi. Okay, everyone loves to talk about Puljujarvi, coming back to the Oilers. I'm just going to pull up his numbers right now, okay? This is a guy who has 13 points in 37 games with exposure to 2 of the top 5 players in the world, and you have 13 points in 37 games. Kyler Yamamoto, who was a point-a-game player last year. Oilers fans told me Kyler Yamamoto, point-a-game player last year, almost playing with Draisaitl, 17 points in 36 games. He's taken a step back.
Wow.
This team has no top 6 forwards outside of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
What give the Oilers numbers up? What's Nuge at? What are his numbers at?
Nuge has 28 points in 38 games, which is solid.
Yeah, good for him.
That's really solid.
Yeah, cleaning up a lot of garbage for him. I'm sure a lot of freebie second assists. And of course, when you're playing with
Connor McDavid 90% of the time, yeah, of course you're going to be probably at almost a point a game, right? Yeah. So I just really had to get that off my chest. And yes, can the Oilers beat the Habs in a 7-game series? Yeah, I think they can. Can they beat the Jets in a 7-game series? Possibly. But if they're playing one of the top, let's call it 6 to 8 actual really good teams that have a chance to win the Stanley Cup.
It's not even a thing in your mind.
It's not even a thing. It's just not. And I don't care if McDavid goes crazy because, again, we've seen him do that. I've seen him do that last season against Chicago in the qualifying round. I think he had 9 points in 4 games and they lost the series. So
I know his numbers were that good and they lost.
Yeah, he had 9 points in 4 games. Draisaitl had, almost 2 points a game, and they lost to the Chicago Blackhawks.
I guess I just don't remember because they lost. Okay.
So, Oilers fans, you can come at me if you want, but I really had to get that off my chest.
You can get a good night's sleep last night, Bruno. What's going on? Your Tim Hortons was a little cold in the drive-thru. I don't know what happened.
I'm a little fired up today.
I love it. Yeah, I guess we can move on if you're done.
I'm done. I promise I'm done now.
Great jersey, though, Oilers fans. We love your swag. I love Oilers swag. So next in the Winnipeg game, I actually really disagree with you with this game. I thought the Leafs played great in that one. Again, Money Puck. Maybe they should sponsor us eventually because we say we give their tags so often. But they gave the Leafs a number of 60% in that game. What I loved about the performance in that game was that the Leafs had a great start. The Matthews, Marner, Hyman line was everywhere. They scored quick. It was Matthews with the first one on that play out in front. And then Hyman, that goal that got reviewed, they went up 2-0. First period, again, how I thought they played well. The shots were 14-6 for the Leafs after one. They did have a bad second period. they took a penalty and then the double minor. Kerfoot scored shorthanded, and they did allow a goal, but they did get heavily outplayed in the second period. And what I loved about this performance was that specifically in the third period, I kind of thought it had, and this is something that Leafs fans have not had an opportunity to see or feel in a very long time. That third period the Leafs played felt like a playoff game where a team is up by, say, 1 or 2 goals, but it's over. It was just, they were very fundamentally sound, especially in their own end, getting the puck out in neutral zone, not attacking overly aggressively offensively, and just kind of, you can tell they're kind of just weaning that clock down. And I was very, very impressed with that. And that's a shout out to the players. And of course, a shout out to Sheldon Keefe. But like I said, I disagree with you on that one. I thought the Leafs looked good. I mean, that's fair. Yeah, and especially coming off that loss to Edmonton that was demoralizing after like playing so well and not getting 2 points. I thought it was, I think you hear the term all the time, a solid road game. And I find quite often people just say that when a team wins a low scoring game on the road. But again, they had a great start. They attacked Winnipeg to start the game, 14-6, like I said, shots in the first period. They did well killing those penalties. They did score a power play goal eventually, right as the first 2 minutes was about to end. But again, Kerfoot shorthanded goal, and then a great third period. And then Jack Campbell, another performance that we smile about. And just looking at that game, like what really more can you ask for against a good team on the road? I mean, that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, and that's totally fair, Lepore. My whole thing about that game is, yes, the Leafs, scored some first period goals, and they obviously won a solid game on the road, right? 3-1 against a team that I think we both agree is the second best team in the Canadian division.
Yeah.
And my whole thing with that game is that I just didn't think the Leafs asserted their dominance. And now is that me being a spoiled Leaf fan being like, they got to dominate every single team? But it was just one of those games where I thought they capitalized on the opportunities when they had a chance, right? Yeah. Like those in tight, close opportunities, they scored this time. Whereas in other games, they haven't been scoring those goals, right? Yeah. But in terms of like just, outshooting Winnipeg and dominating play and things like that, I thought it was honestly like pretty even for the most part. And maybe the advanced stats might disagree with me on that.
Like I said, Winnipeg really controlled the second period.
Yeah. So I thought it was more of like an even game. And you know what? Kudos to the Leafs for capitalizing on their opportunities early in the game. And like you said, whenever you can win a tight game on the road against a quality opponent, I mean, that's always a positive. And just one thing I wanted to bring up, Lepore, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, we like to rip on the Leafs every year for their poor defensive play and giving up all these shots and being a disaster in their own end. This team has been really good defensively this year. Just to reiterate,
it's fucking weird, man.
It's actually crazy because you'll talk to Leaf fans. And, there's a lot of Leaf fans in my life, obviously, family and friends, and some of them will still make comments like, oh, this team sucks defensively.
Yeah.
I can't believe that stupid mistake they made. But when you look, okay, just to reiterate for everybody, they are 7th in the league in goals against per game, allowing 2.51 goals a game. And they're 6th in shots against per game. That's pretty damn good.
You know what I'd say to that too. So you said they were 6th in the league in goals against. I'd like to see what their team save. 7th. What's their team save percentage? You have that in front of you? Because their team save percentage probably isn't very good.
I'll find that real quick, Lepore.
Because like to have that kind of number, if someone said the team was that high, but their save percentage is bonkers. I know at least a week or two ago it was average at best.
So right now, Lepore, the Leafs sit 12th in the NHL in a tie for 12th with a 912 team save percentage.
There you go. So it's 912. Like that's average.
Yeah.
At best. So there you go. Seventh in the league with an average save percentage. So it's weird, man. So much of this shit we've seen over so long, and to have this team be this solid defensively, it's huge. Like the thing I always said with the makeup of this team, and this is kind of getting off topic, but people always shit on the Leafs D. Like, oh, they focus so much on building the forward core, and the forward core is elite, but it's all irrelevant if the D is shit. And people were right. It was irrelevant in the last three seasons. But from a team planning perspective, maybe I was giving too much credit at the time, and maybe I'm giving too much credit now, and it just kind of worked out this way. I always kind of saw it as a smart way to build a team, simply because a defensive core is fewer guys and lesser players are playing more minutes. So it's something that can be fixed very quickly. Like if you do get a bounce, and when I mean a bounce, like an organizational bounce by the way of a pick, a prospect a pick that becomes a prospect who develops, or a trade that works out your way, or a player that becomes available, you can get good, or at least go bad to average very quickly, or average to good very quickly. And we would say, okay, why did this team make such leaps and bounds defensively since last season? I mean, we can point to the maturity of some players who play forward and their responsibility in the defensive end, but and I say something as simple as we got TJ Brody and Justin Hall has developed nicely. Now, those things people can look and say, wow, that is big. You're not giving enough credit to that. And that's not something that can happen all the time. And I agree with that. But TJ Brody, as much as we love him, is not prime Drew Doughty.
No.
So it's not like they made this big splash on this big guy. Okay, and we fixed the problem. It's like, no, they got a very good, nice player, and one of their kids developed nicely, and bang. And now there's also the thing people forget with D2 is that, okay, if you insert a good player, now someone else moves down. So maybe someone who was in a second pairing that should have been in a third pairing is in a lot more comfortable spot.
Yeah, and look at the Leafs third pair with Dermott and Bogosian.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really solid third pair.
That's a solid third pair. But if you have those guys on the second pair, yeah, now we have a problem.
Then you have issues.
So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things we can circle for their defensive play. But regardless of what the answer is or what the answers are, big improvements, man. Big improvements. It's funny how we're having this discussion about the Leafs D-core, but earlier we were having the discussion about why can't this fucking team light up other teams, which is what we've been doing. We were winning games 7-5 and we were unhappy with our defensive play. Now we have good defensive play, but we can't light it up. We want 6-1 wins. So I guess that's where we are really spoiled right now, but just impressed with the defensive core. And yeah, it's crazy because it genuinely feels weird watching Leafs games now.
It really does, because, you know, we've gone 10, 20 years of watching this team be, you know, really good offensively and just be a complete and utter disaster in their own end, even goaltending. Like it's been bad, you know, for especially the last decade specifically.
Was it Bernier who broke the record? Was it most saves in a season? Like he faced more rubber than a goalie ever.
I'm not 100% sure, but
Bernier.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah. And he had like 5 games to go when he beat the record. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So bad.
And that's the thing. And I think it's been sort of difficult for Leaf fans to like process how good this team has been defensively. And sure, you're always going to like point to like certain bad defensive plays that you see, like, oh, why did that defenseman not get the puck out when he should have? Or why did, you know, Nylander or Kerfoot not, you know, get the puck out of the zone when they had a chance on the blue line there and they turned it over? But it's like, that's going to happen every game. But at the end of the day, when you zoom out and you look at how this team has played defensively, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Lepore, another thing we have to getting into this third game of the week against the Winnipeg Jets on Friday night is the play of Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow, man. This guy has been unreal. I mentioned it earlier. He is now 8-0-0 with a 135 goals against and a 951 save percentage.
It's PlayStation stuff, man.
This is absolutely insane. I mean,
he's just so nice.
Honestly, it's fantastic to get this, because we have gone so long since we have actually had like really, really good goaltending.
It's been a while.
And Freddie Anderson has had a solid run, not to take anything away from Frederik Anderson. Okay, I know he's had his trouble in the playoffs before, but I mean, he was never like a top 5 goalie in the sport. And the numbers that Campbell is putting up right now, and now,
he's the greatest goalie ever, Bruno.
One of the elite goalies in the league? Do I think he's the best goalie of all time?
Yeah.
No, I don't. But I mean, This is a guy who was a former first-round pick, 11th overall in 2010. Yeah. He has the pedigree. He's bounced around. He's played in the AHL, the ECHL, and now it seems like he's found a home. So, Lepore, just give me your thoughts on this Leafs goaltending situation. Like, has Freddie Andersen officially lost the starting job to Jack Campbell?
Yeah, he has. I was trying to find an answer that I could kind of dance around a bit, but no. Like, it would take, I think at this point, it would take something catastrophic on the way of Campbell's performances. But with Campbell, and I've said it before on the pod, I'm still waiting for his numbers to adjust. So when they adjust and how hard they adjust is going to tell the story here. And that's what we're going to point to, say, next season or seasons in the future, where we look back at what Jack Campbell was as the goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But right now, it'd be absolute craziness to not just ride this. Like can you imagine? Can you imagine this keeps going? Freddie heals up, and we go into the playoffs, maybe there's a few games before the playoffs start, and we put Freddie in, and even if he does okay, and we start a playoff series with Jack Campbell on the bench, if things even semi keep going the way they're going. And I'll say this too, man, like you hate to bring this to what I'm about to say, but to do that would be a lot of fucking balls for Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas. Like, can you imagine Campbell he's not going to keep going the way he's going, but if he finishes the season strong, and then you turn to Freddie, and let's face it, if they turn back to Freddie, it'll be like out of respect and because of the dollars factor, which is fucking bullshit. And, teams and organizations do that. They show respect in those cases, when they absolutely should not. I mean, this sports is about W's, but it would take a lot of balls for a coaching staff and a management team to point to a goalie who's been out, not played as well, and to have a goalie on the bench who's played as well as Campbell has. Because if shit hits the fan and Freddie does not play well and this team was to lose, say, in the first round, that's a big slap in the face to everyone. And the media would have an absolute fucking field day. So I just don't think we'll get there. Like, I just think with how this is going right now, and especially with Freddie being done in Toronto, I mean, everything pointing to him being done as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs, to me, I'd be absolutely shocked if this went another way. I mean, it'd be a whole other discussion if this team's even going to have Frederik Andersen after the deadline. I mean, I'm not going to go absolutely crazy there, but I just look at it and see the way I see the Toronto Maple Leafs right now is I see a team where Jack Campbell is the starting goalie.
Lepore, I think you absolutely nailed it. I think it's gotten to a point now that he has forced the hand of Sheldon Keefe specifically, and Kyle Dubas, if you want to loop him into that as well. There's no way that Sheldon Keefe is the head coach of this hockey team with the way that Jack Campbell has been playing. There is absolutely no way, and there is no reason for him to go back to Freddie Andersen at this point. And you brought up a great point, Lepore. Are we going to see some regression from Jack Campbell? Yes, of course we are.
Imagine we don't.
I mean, it's possible. There's only 19 games left this season, and it's it's in very short sample sizes. Like you could get like extraordinary results in very short sample sizes, and that's what we're seeing right now from Campbell. But earth to everyone, he has a .951 save percentage. He's not going to finish the season with a .951 save percentage. He's just not. Yeah. I mean, at some point that's going to come down, but even if that comes down to like a .930 save percentage, I mean, he's having the best year of his career right now. And I know it's only been 8 games, but here's how you got to think about it. So let's say Campbell continues to play well. Let's say over the next, I don't know, Lepore, 5 games, right? So that's 13 games in total. Let's say he's like 11-2, right? And his save percentage maybe dips a little bit, but it's still among like the elite in the league. How at that point, when Freddie Andersen is healthy again, let's say, because let's say within, the next couple of weeks, Andersen's back to full health. We got our 2 goalies. How at that point can you just turn to Andersen and say the net is yours again?
No,
when he's in the final year of his contract, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He has not been playing well this year. A save percentage under 900. Like we've said several times on this show, he is having the worst season of his NHL career. How on earth does Sheldon Keefe, who I believe, and I think you believe, is a very, very sharp guy and a very, very good head coach, how on earth could he turn back to Freddie Anderson at this point?
He can. Something, and this kind of sums it up, but sort of like a life thing that I always try to use. It sounds kind of cheesy, is that quite often throughout your life, you're in positions where things aren't in your control and someone has to make a decision. The thing I always think about is that try to put yourself in a position where the person making the decision has no choice but to pick you. Like, I'll use a hockey example. Well, if you're trying out for a hockey team and there's a scrimmage and you score 5 goals, well, you've put them in a position where they have no choice but to pick you. You fucking scored 5 goals. What Jack Campbell has done, he's put the organization in a position where they have no choice but to pick him. He's undefeated. It's not even like, oh, this is no, he's undefeated. They have no choice but to pick him. So he's got it. He's done it. That's it. Game over. We're done
really
here.
Is as simple as that. Like, the Leafs have no choice. Like, the media will cause a shitstorm if it goes back to Anderson. Like, the fans are going to be crazy. In an uproar. Like, it's going to be crazy. I mean, especially like you said, Lepore, he hasn't lost a game. He's undefeated. Yeah. How do you move away from that? He's undefeated with that save percentage, playing the way he's been playing. I mean, there's just no way in hell. And it really, truly is as simple as that. Freddie Anderson, it's going to take Jack Campbell to suffer an injury. Essentially.
Which we're kind of worried about. It seems like every time he goes down, the commentators remind us about that leg thing.
Exactly. And, like I mentioned earlier in the show, how when Hutchinson played that first game of the week against Edmonton, reports were coming out that they were managing Campbell's workload. He's sore. He could be dealing with something. The commentators are saying on the broadcast that it could be a leg issue. Listen, we don't have all the information on that, and who knows? But the way he's been playing, it doesn't look like he's injured. Lepore.
Yeah, I'd love to see him at 100%.
Yeah, exactly. He maybe wouldn't let in a goal all season if he was 100%. Fuck, Jesus. But yeah, I mean, the goaltending's been awesome, but Lepore, something that has not been awesome, specifically over the last 10 games, has been this Leafs power play.
Unbelievable.
So let me just give you the numbers real quick, okay? The Leafs have now gone 10 straight games without a power play goal. They are 0 for 26 on the power play in their last 26 opportunities on the man advantage. They have not scored a power play goal since March 9th against the Winnipeg Jets. And Lepore, we talked about this on an earlier show, how this Leafs power play was operating like Team Canada at the World Juniors earlier this season. They're scoring at a 35% clip, approaching 40%. But since then, we have seen a sharp decline. Let me just double check this. The Leafs now have the 8th ranked power play in the NHL. And they were like a top 2 unit essentially almost the entire season up until these last 10 games.
Yeah, they were like bouncing between 1 and 2 the whole time.
So yeah, man, like what the hell is going on with this power play? Like, are you concerned? Is this going to be an issue moving forward and into the playoffs?
The scariest part to me is that someone broke it down, one of the Leafs writers, and was breaking down their chances within the power plays, and their power play chances haven't even been that great. Like someone broke it down with compared to all the other teams in the league. And I think it was over the last 10 games, they were generating like 3 scoring chances on power plays a game. And that was like near the bottom. And then there's another terrible stat that like Matthews is like half of those chances. So you remove him, it'd be an absolute joke.
Unreal.
And I'm sure I'm oversimplifying it, but I am going to fucking point to John Tavares here. Like, how many times have I seen it where they try that thing where Marner or Nylander kind of peels off the sideboards, and you can tell they practice this all day long, where that player has the opportunity to shoot it or do that kind of dish to Tavares in front of the net. And a lot of the time it's working, but Tavares isn't putting it in. And I don't know how much now is in his head, or he's just like something's wrong. But it's getting to the point now where it's absolutely crazy with JT. Like, I think there was 2-3 times last night where I actually said, like, the puck fell to his stick. And you know, when a player has a scoring chance and you kind of out loud say, oh, scores. I think I did that 2-3 times last night with Tavares. And it goes in the goalie's pad or it dribbles off his stick. And I'm sure we can point to like this whole power play stretch. That's an absolute disaster. And he's probably got 5-10 like grade A scoring chances. Well, if half of those go in or even a third go in, we're probably here just saying, yeah, this power play shit right now, but it's adjusting. But right now it's embarrassing. Like John, you're killing us, man. And again, like he's got a big responsibility on that unit to be the guy in front of the net. The other thing is too, and I'm sure like you've noticed it, and people love to make fun of this one on Twitter, with all the weapons this power play has and all the things they can kind of work to in the way of a scoring chance, how fucking frustrating is it when they just get to Riley up top and he blasts a slap shot?
Oh God, I know.
It never makes it through.
No,
and
it drives me nuts.
It never makes it through. And even worse than that, it always gives the other team possession to get the puck out. It's just a waste. Like it's a fucking waste of 20 seconds on the power play, or maybe even longer because you've been snapping the puck around, working up to him getting that shot. But just, I don't know. It's weird. One thing about the D altogether, did you know the D for the Leafs, they said it last night, 30th in the league in goals?
Yeah, no, I heard that on the broadcast as well.
Yeah, after Dermott scored. I didn't know. I mean, once they said it, I was like, yeah, now that you mention it, I don't really remember too many goals coming from the D, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they said the Leafs are like second last and the Jets are dead last in scoring among defensemen.
Yeah, so maybe that's the thing too. We don't have that option on the power play really of like a blast. Like, because I mean, when they do it, it's Matthews on the side there. But even like, it's not like they fire it to Muzzin and he hammers one, or I mean, that's not really.
I'm glad you brought up this point because I've said this in the past, and this is going back, 2, 3, 4 years. Okay. I'm a big fan of Morgan Riley. I think he's awesome. I think the way that he's able to jump into the play, his skating ability, his skill level, he's an awesome player. He's a great offensive defenseman. He's a great, in my opinion, just all around defenseman.
Yeah, he's pretty good at everything. Yeah.
But one thing that I always liked about Jake Gardiner specifically when he was still on the Leafs, and everyone used to make fun of Jake Gardiner.
Careful, everyone's flipping out.
I'm just going to say this real quick, okay? I always thought Jake Gardiner was better as the power play quarterback than Morgan Riley was.
Yeah.
And not because Jake Gardiner has a shot like Shea Weber or anything like that, but I thought that he had a better one-timer. I thought that he was better at getting that slap shot through. And I thought that he was just more of a threat from the point. And you're sort of seeing that because, Lepore, like you mentioned, this Leafs power play at the end of the day, it's run through Matthews and Marner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got Marner on the half wall. He's moving around. He kind of just roams around. And then Matthews is just waiting to get that shot off. And then you have John Tavares down low in front of the net. But at the end of the day, it's Matthews and Marner. And the Leafs don't really have that booming shot from the point. And again, as much as we both like Morgan Riley, he really isn't like the ideal power play quarterback. That guy back there who that he can unleash a one-timer. Like a guy that I think about is like John Carlson on the Washington Capitals. Like he's got an absolute bomb. And that's why, we all know Ovechkin's amazing and is going to be the all-time leading power play goal scorer and probably the all-time leading scorer ever.
Careful. I'm still nervous for the all-time when Bruno. I gotta say it. I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen.
We'll see. But I mean, a big reason why that Washington power play has always been so good is because of John Carlson. He's an absolute monster unleashing shots from the point. And I can go down the list of other teams that have that player as well. Even if you look at like Carolina, they've been really good this year. Like Dougie Hamilton has an absolute bomb from the point. Like, the thing with Morgan Riley, he has that wrist shot and he can get it through and he can roam around and he can make plays happen and he's a good playmaker. But in terms of that shot threat from the point, it's not really there. And maybe that's one of the big issues with this power play right now, Lepore, besides the fact that, seems like they're hitting, 25 posts every single game and missing grade A scoring chances.
Yeah. At what point with regard to the power play, like I don't pretend to be a coach. At what point do we have to point to Manny Malhotra? Because like
That's a good point because we was brought in this year earlier this year,
and we brought him in this year to handle the power play, and it's dipped hard. And I feel like it's been the story for the Leafs every year that their power play comes out guns a-blazing, just because like those guys just go off, and it maybe takes a while for other teams to kind of understand what the Leafs are going to do, and that is what it is. But I mean, Manny, like this is your unit. I mean, if it's shit, you're the captain of the ship, so. I don't know. Maybe some decisions have to be made there. I'm not saying fire the Manny Malhotra mid-season, but I mean, some conversations have to be had, and I'm sure they are being had for that matter.
Yeah, and here's one last thing I'll say about this power play. We're going to see some positive regression. There's just absolutely no way this can continue.
Yeah.
It's like you said, Lepore, like Tavares is getting these grade A scoring chances. Matthews, every single game, especially on the power play, is getting really, really high quality scoring chances. And they just haven't been going in for him. So at some point, we are going to see some positive regression. They're 0 for 26 on the power play over their last 10 games. That's just not going to continue. At some point, it's going to flip in the other direction. Now, would I like to see them load up that top power play and just put all the stars out there? Because as we've seen, they've sort of staggered the power play units this year. And that could be another issue that we could look at. But earlier in the season, we were talking about how that was a positive and how the Leafs had two really solid power play units, right? So there's different things that you could look at, but I think at the end of the day, we will see positive regression with this power play. And another thing I looked up, the Leafs over the last 10 games where their power play has been a disaster, they're outscoring teams 2018 at 5-on-5. So that goes back to that whole conversation we had where they're not like dominating anyone on the score sheet. They're not like winning these games 4-1, 5-1. Because, yeah, they are slightly outscoring teams at 5-on-5. But when your power play goes 0 for 26, that's probably why you're just squeaking out victories.
That's the gap. Yeah.
Right. And that's the difference right there. Lepore, just circling back a little bit, I wanted to get into this third game of the week. It was the Leafs' first shootout of the entire season.
Yeah.
Is there anything specifically you wanted to touch on in this game? It being the first shootout of the year, another big win over the Winnipeg Jets. So give me your thoughts, man.
Just run through it quickly here. What I had, like I already mentioned, Dermott getting that goal and circling the bad attack of the Maple Leafs D. There's we mentioned Riley. There's that bad pinch he made on that goal. He got absolutely burned and left Brody out to draw in a 2-on-1. Funny, we also talked about posts. Both Kerfoot and Galchenyuk hit posts. Campbell, another thing we talked about. He made that crazy save on Connor. What a save. Connor ridiculous. Didn't quite put it where I think he wanted to. And then Tavares, he had 2 grade A chances in regulation and then a chance in OT. And I was just thinking here, like when we got that power play in overtime, okay, 4-on-3, they put out Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. I'm like, here we go. We're going to get the overtime winner. This drought of the bad power play is going to end. Tavares is going to score. No. No.
Nope.
And no. And again, frustrated with that, but they were able to get the shootout win. It was actually pretty crazy. They hadn't been in a shootout all year, and I've been waiting for it. But going back to that overtime itself, it was almost as if Winnipeg was like, I mean, they were shorthanded for those 2 minutes, but the other 3 minutes of the overtime, almost like they were playing for the shootout. Like I know some teams do this thing now where they bring it back and then attack, but like they kept doing it. They were slowly rushing, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but it was just weird. It was like almost to the point I was getting annoyed. Like, okay, Winnipeg, like let's fucking go and play, right? Like I almost see overtime now is essentially a coin flip. Well, it is a coin flip. I mean, from what the stats show, and if you get to a shootout, it's an actual coin flip. So just attack, like let's get it over with, and whatever happens. But I just found it weird how they kept peeling back. But like you said, they got the 2 points, 2 straight wins against the Jets. It's good for the standings. This was a game I didn't think they played overly well. I kind of wondered if it was like a strategic thing on Keefe's end, where he just figured, we had a good road win in the first game against the Jets. Maybe with this game, we'll kind of try to keep a low scoring strategy going and kind of try to harness the Jets as best as we can because we expect them to come out hard. And another win. It wasn't a very eventful game, I don't think, but did anything really jump out at you from that one?
Well, the big thing that jumped out at me, and you mentioned it, I mean, besides the play of Jack Campbell, of course, was that power play in overtime, because you thought, finally, this is where the drought ends. A nice 4-on-3, and 4-on-3s, honestly, for the most part, especially with a team like the Leafs, it's almost money in the bank.
For a full 2 minutes too. Yeah.
Like it's almost a lock at that point. Like when you have your 4 best players on the ice who are combining to make $40 million and they're whipping the puck around with all that space on a 4-on-3, you're like, this is just the perfect opportunity. They're going to get the monkey off their back. They're going to end this crazy drought. It's going to be the game winner in overtime. And of course it doesn't happen. So that was the thing that jumped out to me. And I honestly think that it could be weighing on them a little bit, just mentally and confidence wise.
Totally. Yeah.
Where now
once you're thinking about it, it's over.
Exactly.
And that goes back to Tavares too. He's obviously just thinking about it every time the puck comes on his stick in front of the net.
And that's sort of what I noticed a little bit on that overtime 4-on-3s, that maybe they weren't whipping the puck around maybe as quickly as they usually do. And maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit, but I don't know. You have to think that, when you go 10 games without a power play goal, like the confidence is just not there.
Yeah.
And eventually they're going to break through. But yeah, that was the one thing that stood out to me. It's like, you have got to be kidding me.
Nylander had that one chance on the left side.
He had a great chance. That one-time attempt, I believe it was.
Yeah, one thing I've always thought, and I've always meant to look up the numbers, just about power plays in general. Say the full 2-minute 4-on-3. Is it just me, or on 4-on-3s and 5-on-3s, I find teams are more successful when it's a shorter advantage? Like I find when they get the full 2 minutes, or say even like, a minute and a half 5-on-3 or full minute 5-on-3, I find they're passing it around trying to get that perfect shot, but in doing that they're wasting the entire advantage because they're just passing it around. Where it's like, no, if you're 4-on-3 or 5-on-3, just create the chance, because even too, if you don't score, a guy on your team is probably going to end up with the puck on his stick anyway, and then you can start snapping it around again. So I just find like in this like last night's example, like they're 4-on-3 for a full 2 minutes, and it's they're moving it around, they're cycling, trying to get that perfect look where you have an advantage right now. So quick shot, and then even if they do get it out, can do it again, right? Whereas like you're just wasting time like passing it around. And I know it's a mental thing too, because if you only do get, say, a 30-second 5-on-3 that I feel teams are more successful on, there's that thing in your brain of like, we have to get the chance. So they kind of naturally doing what I'm saying in the way they just create a chance quickly. And again, it's to your advantage because especially with a 5-on-3, it's more than likely a guy on your team is going to end up with the puck anyway. And can we do it again? Right. And I think last night's 4-on-3 was an example where they're just kind of floating around, moving it, trying to find that chance. Well, it's not just going to come. And then when you do get it, well, you've taken so much time away. And then again, you're gripping your stick really tightly because now you did find that chance. I don't know. And again, I'm sure a lot of it's mental, like I said, in the way the teams, they're more relaxed naturally because they know they have the full 2 minutes, or, say a minute 35 on 3, but it's always something I've wanted to look up, and maybe I'm imagining it, but I don't know. It's always kind of jumped out to me.
No, I think you're onto something there, because I think maybe the sense of urgency isn't as high, right?
That's exactly it.
When you have that comfort factor, you're like, okay, for the next 2 minutes, we got this 4-on-3. We can just chill. Let's try to get the perfect shooting opportunity for Matthews, or the perfect shooting opportunity for William Nylander, when really they should just be like snap, 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 shot on net. And then if Tavares jumps on a rebound, there you go. He scores, right? And I know we're oversimplifying the whole thing, but really, at some point, you have to simplify this power play, right? You have to just get pucks on net. I know it's like the biggest cliche in hockey, but at some point, you have to go back to the fundamentals here. Just
pucks in deep,
give it 110%, and score on the fucking power play.
Coach Anthony Bruno with his pregame speech.
This team sometimes.
This first place team sometimes driving us fucking up the wall.
This first place team Stanley Cup contender sometimes, I tell you, Lepore.
Oh man.
Oh God. But Lepore, one other thing we got to get to here that came out of this Friday night game. against the Winnipeg Jets. So during the first intermission on the TSN panel, a conversation came up about Zach Hyman making the Canadian Olympic team in 2022.
Yes.
I think we have gone completely crazy here. We love Zach Hyman. Yeah. I love Zach Hyman. Lepore loves Zach Hyman. Leafs Nation loves Zach Hyman. We know all the amazing things he brings to the table.
He writes children's books.
He writes children's books too. This guy does it all. I mean, you want him to date your daughter. I know he's married and has a kid, but you want him to date your daughter. Okay, he's like the perfect person, Zach Hyman. Okay, but Lepore, what the hell are we doing here?
Oh my
saying
God.
That he should be on the Canadian Olympic hockey team. What is going on, man?
The amazing thing to me is that, okay, so he's had a great season. At the end of the day, the guy's got 12 goals, 12 assists, 24 points in 37 games. I mean, those are nice numbers. He had a great season. But to have that discussion, if the panel would have had a discussion and said, you know what, does Zach Hyman belong in the conversation to be on Team Canada? Sure, the guy's having a good season. You can have a conversation as to whether he should be in the discussion. But if I remember correctly, the numbers, Dreger put it at a 60% chance, was it? And O'Neill put it at 100. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So a 100% slam dunk that Zach Hyman will be on Team Canada, a team that is usually top to bottom, a Hall of Fame ballot. Like, just looking back at guys who have not made Team Canada. Last Olympics, Claude Giroux did not make the team. Some people pointed to his relationship with Crosby as to why he didn't make the team. But at the end of the day, he didn't make the team. PK Subban won a Norris Trophy. And if I remember correctly, he was on the taxi squad.
Yeah, he was the 7th defenseman on the team.
Marty St. Louis. That year was St. Louis. It started that whole riff with Yzerman. Was that like the year after he won the Art Ross or something? And he didn't
St.
make
Louis was still putting up like
crazy numbers
around that time.
And he only made it after an injury. I forget who got hurt now that I think back. But was it Tavares? Was that another?
Tavares did get. I'm pretty sure he did get injured.
Or was it Stamkos?
I think Tavares had like a leg injury or something.
Yeah, we need to look that because one of them was the World Cup too. Maybe like Stamkos got hurt for the World Cup, or we'll have to look that one up.
And Stamkos, as we know, he's been injured like so many times.
That's why it's all a blur.
It's almost impossible to think back what games he missed at certain points, right?
Yeah, but just with Hyman being on Canada again, like we love Hyman, but again, like looking at numbers, a guy that's got 24 points in 37 games, but he's playing with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, which again, that's not his fault. And he's a good player to put with those guys. And we love that line. I don't think that line should go anywhere. I love that line. But to say that he should be on Team Canada is crazy. And here we go, Leafs land, being a Leafs fan. All these conversations, don't tell me it's a coincidence that these conversations are being had when he's negotiating a contract right now.
Ooh, Lepore.
Don't tell me. It even goes into the game. It even goes into the game where every fucking time Hyman would make a nice play, Ray Ferrero's got to go on this rant about how amazing the play was. And it's like, Ray, you didn't notice how, he got a quality scoring chance, but Mitch Marner deked out 3 guys before the puck fell to Hyman. Like that's the guy you should be talking about. And it's that whole Canadiana thing too, with Hyman, where like he works hard, he's in the corners, he grinds, he's big. Like we're going all Don Cherry everywhere. But man, like the way they're pumping this guy's tires right now, it's there's that thing in me that like I just want to say to all the broadcasters, do you guys like sit in a huddle and just talk about how you can hurt the Toronto Maple Leafs? Both in the way of like putting pressure on these guys, shitting on them all the time, not making guys want to sign in Toronto. And then when we do have guys playing here, making their lives miserable because, if they have a bad stretch, they're just getting slapped in the face in the media. Or in this case, let's hurt the organization because let's pump this guy's tires and give the agent ammunition so he can just go guns a-blazing when it comes to negotiating that contract and make these crazy comparables. But it's just it
really seems like it sometimes, Lepore.
Oh my God. It's so crazy. Like it's just Leafs. They love it. And or two, like maybe they're smarter than we're giving them credit for, because, you know, they do the panel and then maybe hockey Twitterland, and by that I mean non-Leafs hockey Twitterland, just goes like, Zach Hyman on Team Canada, would you shut your mouth, you idiots? Like, so maybe it's that, and they're trying to get like a rise out of people. But I'll let you go on a rant about how not elite Zach Hyman is now.
Oh yeah, and like you said, there's always a method to the madness when it comes to content, and TSN knows exactly what they're doing, stirring up a conversation like that in the middle of a Leafs Winnipeg Jets game. But here's my whole take on the Zach Hyman thing, and this just drives me nuts, okay, with hockey fans. You know, we all love that lunch pail guy, right? The blue collar, goes into the corners, works hard, gives it 110% every single game. Mm-hmm. But does anyone ever watch Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, the elite players on the team? They do the exact same thing. What do you think Sidney Crosby does? Have any of you ever watched Sidney Crosby play hockey? He's like the ultimate grinder.
He's a grinder. I've heard that from a few like high-end coaches say like Crosby is actually, if you watch him, he's a grinder. He just happens to be the most talented and works the hardest, but his actual style is a grinder. Yeah.
There you go. And I could even look at a guy like Nathan McKinnon. Like,
oh yeah, he's feisty as fuck. Yeah.
Do you think that these guys just hang around the perimeter and they don't try to make things happen, and they don't, you know, they're not tenacious on the puck, and they're not giving it everything they have in terms of winning puck possession, winning puck battles, and making plays happen down low in the dirty areas? That's what makes these guys so good. Yeah. They can do all of these things. So you're trying to tell me that Zach Hyman is going to take the spot of, and even I think of a guy like Mark Stone on the Vegas Golden Knights, who's like considered one of the best two-way forwards in the NHL, you know, always among the league leaders in takeaways and things like that. And on top of that, he's like a 30-goal scorer and point per game player. And you're trying to tell me that Zach Hyman is better than Mark Stone?
Or like in terms of like he would probably have that type of role on a Team Canada, not like Hyman. Yeah,
exactly.
Like,
right.
Put Stone with Marner and Matthews, like score 1,000 goals, right?
Exactly. Just, and then when you think about like, I think about like the centerman on Team Canada, right? So let's say you got McDavid as the 1C, you got McKinnon as the second center. And listen, I know all the you can make a whole team full of centermen and they can play on the wing, right? It's not that difficult when they're elite players and they're all, you know, among the top 30 players in the world, right? But you're telling me Sidney Crosby can't be your third center who kills penalties and plays that defensive role? Like, I'll even
say it, like even Tavares. Yeah. Like based on how he's played this year, people would say, "Oh, no fucking way, Tavares can be on the team." John Tavares is better than Zach Hyman. Everyone. Like if you gave Tavares Hyman's responsibilities, he would flourish in those responsibilities. But again, he's just not that. He's not in that role, I guess is the way to put it.
100%. And it's just that thing. It's like, I don't understand why hockey fans sometimes overthink these things. It's like, do you realize how good the elite players are? Like Matt Barzal is probably going to be like the fourth line center on Team Canada.
Yeah, he's bananas.
and look at a guy like Mitch Marner, for example. What does Mitch Marner do? He does the same thing that Hyman does. He kills. Mitch Marner, I would argue, is the Leafs' #1 penalty killer.
Yeah, he's really good penalty
right?
killer.
So you're trying to tell me that Team Canada needs Zach Hyman because of his ability to kill penalties and dig pucks out of the corner. Like, it's just insane. These elite players, whether they're centermen, whether they're wingers, they can do it all. They can play in any role. And we've seen that over and over again. You know, Team Canada winning, you know, Olympic gold, winning the World Cup gold. Like, you got like high-end first-line guys who are being like demoted, let's call it, into like a fourth-line role, and they have to turn into grinders. And guess what? They can do that job better than Zach Hyman, as much as we all love Zach Hyman. So, yeah, it's just one of those things, Lepore. It just makes me shake my head. But again, I understand why TSN is doing it, because then it creates a social media shitstorm, for lack of a better word. You have guys like us going on the GFP podcast talking about it. So
yeah, the line I always love is, and to me, this just demonstrates how some people don't get it, is when they say, "Oh, say Hyman compared to a Marner or a Matthews, what Hyman doesn't show in advanced stats. The elements he bring, they don't show in the metrics." It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense, because like, oh, he does this, it would show in the stats. It's like if he's grinding and it's effective, it would equal something. There'd be a result out of it, right? And really quickly, with regard to Hyman, it's kind of a broad thing in hockey, and it's funny discussion. I find hockey's a weird sport in the way that guys, like the way they look and their style can appear to be something. Whereas like Hyman, and like I'm not saying like he doesn't work hard or he doesn't skate really fast or something like that, but because of his style of play, like that rough and tumble lunch pail looking player, I think sometimes it can give, not an illusion's a strong word, but it makes it almost appear as they're doing more than they're actually doing.
Yes. Preach, Lepore. Preach.
Yeah, and even on the other side too, like I've said, and people might laugh at this, but like hockey, people who played hockey will know what I mean. Like for example, tucking in your jersey. I always say tucking in your jersey, it makes a player look like smoother and faster. He looks like that like Russian player.
They're like a diva. Like they're like a perimeter player who just plays with skill and doesn't get into the dirty area.
Exactly. Oh, because he tucks in his jersey. Or I even like say Mike Fisher for the Sens, who like I always loved as a player. His skating style, he would pump his arms like crazy, and like his stick was everywhere.
He's working so hard.
He's working, and I'm like, is he actually working really hard and he's actually faster than anyone, or is this style of play? And then even on the flip side too, if a guy's big and lanky, it's like, oh, he's not skilled. No, maybe he is. He just also happens to be big, right? And like I find hockey can create a lot of illusions, like with our brain of like a player being something or not being something. And like with the Hyman thing, and this is probably why these advanced stats come in, where they can actually point to a number and say, no, this is what the guy does. I don't care what it looks like visually. We need a result here. And even I remember when Van Riemsdyk had to switch his number because instead of honoring numbers, the Leafs started actually retiring numbers, and Salming had 21. So Van Riemsdyk had to change his number, and he changed to 25. And I saw him in an interview, and he said he went to 25 because of a suggestion from Lou Lamoriello. Lou said 25 would make him look bigger.
Oh my God. That is like the most Lou Lamoriello thing.
It's so Lou Lamoriello, but once he said that, Bruno, I was like, he's right. It's like, because you see 25 versus like an 11. And then I thought, even like Lindros was
88.
huge. And then you put 88, it makes him from behind look even bigger. And it's like how our eyes play tricks on us. But I find there's a lot of that in hockey compared to other sports. Like say it's baseball. No, the guy had a home run or he didn't. Or say football, it's very like result and number based, yards and whatever. But hockey is sport because there's so many styles of players. I find our eyes play tricks on us with like a skill player versus like a player who works hard, or a player who brings something that he doesn't, or he appears to. It's funny. Hockey's a funny game like that in my eyes anyway.
No, it's so true. And one last thing I'd like to add on this is that a lot of the times we like to label players as being really good at one thing. Mm-hmm. And we sort of not ignore, but we don't realize some of the other things they're also great at. So for example, like we look at Zach Hyman and we're like, wow, he's so great at, digging pucks out of the corner and being, difficult to play against, and he plays so tough. And then we look at Austin Matthews and we're like, oh, he's just a great goal scorer and he's got the best shot. But then you don't realize that no, Austin Matthews is usually the guy digging pucks out of the corner and making plays happen literally out of nothing.
Matthews never loses a puck battle. Like whenever it's like a stick fight, never loses it. No, good point.
It is outrageous how good Austin Matthews is in one-on-one puck battles in terms of just stripping guys, making things happen out of absolutely nothing. When you think of plays dead and, guys are just sort of fighting for possession in the corner, Matthews will lift a guy's stick, make 2 strides and get a shot on net. But we never like to talk about that because we label Zach Hyman as the guy who's doing all the work for Matthews. Well, Matthews apparently just, drinks a cup of coffee in front of the net waiting for Zach Hyman to pass him the puck, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of times in hockey, we like to put guys in certain buckets and we don't acknowledge some of the other great things that they also do. But yeah, at the end of the day, guys, Zach Hyman should not be on Team Canada.
Another example I'll give really quickly, and then we'll wrap it up. I saw that with Kessel because he always had the label of like a sniper, but I was like, he's a great playmaker.
100%.
He'd peel off the wall, feed guys. I would get the puck to the front of the net. It's always a sniper. People wouldn't notice how good of a playmaker he was. But anyways,
even like, and one other thing I'll bring, like Connor McDavid, we're like, oh, he's such a great playmaker. And then you look up and you're like, wow, Connor McDavid's a 40 goal scorer. Like he's also like one of the best goal scorers in the world.
That was always the joke with Gretzky. It was like, oh, the greatest goal scorers ever. Well, Mike Bossy and so. Gretzky's got the most goals. Exactly. It's like Wayne, just because Wayne was that. Yeah, it's funny.
It's the perfect example, right? He has like more assists than anyone has points, but then it's like, oh, wait a second. He's also the leading goal scorer of all time. How has every happen?
Record. Yeah, exactly. But
unbelievable. But yeah, man, before we wrap up the pod, just sort of some final thoughts on the week ahead. So, well, as I mentioned before, the Leafs still have another game Sunday night against the Calgary Flames in Calgary, and then they have the Flames again on Monday in Calgary. So a back-to-back against the Flames, and then they got Montreal and Ottawa. And just one little stat to bring up, Lepore, the Flames are now 5-7 under Daryl Sutter.
Just kind of fire that in there, eh, Bruno? Bruno's in a great mood.
Under Daryl Sutter, Flames fans. Let us know how you feel about that in the comments. So yeah, and now they got the Leafs.
Johnny Gaudreau has got a very, very happy look on his face, just walking around smiling all day.
He must want to sign a big, juicy, long-term contract with Daryl Sutter and the Calgary Flames. Let me tell you, Flames fans. Yeah, Lepore. So, what are you looking forward to with these upcoming games? What do you want to see? What's on your mind?
A lot of games, like I'm worried. I would shit on the NHL for that schedule they made with the Leafs. They had like 2 games or in 2 weeks, and then they have like, 10 games in 28 days. I mean, I would shit on them, but we're kind of in different circumstances right now. But I'm a little nervous with the workload, especially with us not really having an effective backup goalie. But there's a lot of things I want to see the Leafs snap out of. I mean, we mentioned the power play. Let's get better there. We want to see Tavares specifically snap out of whatever he's going through. And we want to see this team start lighting the lamp a little more. I mean, we love the defensive play. We love the results. But I think if Leafs fans are being perfectly honest with themselves, there's that little thing we're missing. And we look at the other teams like the Tampas, the Colorados, the Vegases. I know we're mostly just watching highlights with those teams because we can't watch every game, or we typically don't watch every game like we do with the Leafs. But I think we have that feeling that those teams right now have that little thing that's missing from Toronto. And hey, if we want to make it to the dance, we got to find it somehow. So hopefully they can show us that at least a little bit in the near future.
Oh, once again, you nailed it, man. That's the thing I'm looking out for this week. We talked about how great the Leafs have been defensively. We talked about how good the goaltending has been. I need to see this offense take things to the next level, especially as we head into the playoffs. 19 games remaining on the schedule for the Leafs. This power play's got to get going. Tavares has got to get going.
Got to get going.
It is imperative that Tavares and Nylander line get going.
Fuck.
We need Matthews to get his swagger back. And listen, Matthews has swag for days and has scoring chances for days, but we need Matthews to find that hot zone that he was in before. And listen, he was in that, he had that ridiculous streak where everything that he shot went in, but now it's like turned almost the complete opposite, where it's like, this guy's getting 4 grade A scoring chances a game and they're just not going in. Right. So we want to see that offense pick it up, get back to where we know this offense can be, because I think that's the missing ingredient. Because you said it, Lepore, you look at like Tampa or Colorado, like Colorado is just flat out pumping teams.
They're fucking destroying everyone.
It's insane.
Oh my God.
Colorado's 11-0-2 over their last 13 games and have outscored their opponents 60-23.
Yeah. Someone did.
Me, that's the bar. That's the bar. Like that's the Stanley Cup favorite, essentially, in my opinion. So I think the big thing, the Leafs have got to get this offense going, because if the goaltending is going to be solid, and even though Campbell might take a little bit of a step back, if he's going to be good and the defense is going to be, like we said, a top 7 unit in the NHL, that should be more than enough for this Leafs team with all the firepower they have to make a deep playoff run. So,
absolutely.
So I think that's the key. Any final thoughts you wanted to add before I wrap this thing up?
No, that's it for me, man. Just looking to this week and those games against Calgary and the Sens. Even though we said we shouldn't be taking the Sens lightly anymore. Let's get some dubs. Let's have a good week, Leafs. Let's get some dubs.
You said it, Lepore. All right. That is going to do it for episode 13 of the Gluttons for Punishment podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. And once again, guys, we would really, really appreciate it, especially if you are listening to us on Apple. If you go on there, it takes literally 5 seconds. Give us a 5-star rating and review. That'll work wonders as we continue to make some more great content for you guys. And then, of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, it would be a big, big time help if you, again, took 5 seconds to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, ring the notification bell as well so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. So that does it for us. For Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.